Who wants to detonate 10,000 nuclear bombs on Florida right now? Well, we as humans can't do that. Mother Nature has no problem unleashing this amount of energy on coastal regions time and time again. While imagining the power of 10,000 nuclear bombs might seem a little extreme, this is the reality for regions affected by hurricanes year after year. Ever since I can remember, I always loved rain and was fascinated by storms. This interest was re-sparked with recent hurricanes that have formed over the Atlantic Ocean in the past month. Knowing more about these storms can be helpful exploring the characteristics that define them, knowing what conditions are needed for them to form, and how they evolve. First, let's look at what makes a hurricane a hurricane. Hurricanes are significant weather phenomena that impact coastal areas. According to the NOAA, a hurricane is a kind of tropical cyclone with specific characteristics. These characteristics include max wind speeds of 45 miles per hour and above, as well as heavy thunderstorm activity within the storm, circular motion of the storm's winds. These circular motions can help us identify where the storm is as well. In the northern hemisphere, we can see counterclockwise rotations, and in the southern hemisphere, we see clockwise rotations. Lastly, the eye of the storm is a calm, clear center in the middle. It's surrounded by the eye wall where the wind is strongest. Now that we can identify a hurricane, let's look at what is needed for them to form. Hurricanes can't just form from anywhere. Their development relies on the right environmental conditions. According to National Geographic, first, warm ocean water to help form a dip in air pressure to help the storm begin to form. Second, humid air to lock moisture and energy inside of the storm. Third, a low vertical shear, which makes it so that high altitude winds stay slow and maintain the storm's power. Fourth, low air pressure to help warm air rise. As this warm air begins to rise, it also begins to spiral to help grow and start the hurricane. Last, it all needs to come together with a pre-existing disturbance. For example, a cluster of thunderstorms over warm water would be perfect. But all of these conditions need to come together perfectly to even have a chance at becoming a hurricane. Like Brian Tang, an astrophysics scientist from the University of Albany, said, "Everything just needs to align." So now that we have our ingredients, now let's look at how a hurricane evolves. Hurricanes don't just start as these huge, powerful storms. They grow in categories and go through 4 distinct stages. First, all the ingredients we just talked about are called a tropical disturbance. That's stage 1. A tropical disturbance slowly begins to form into a tropical depression. At this stage, it is weak, but also it has great potential to grow in power as it makes its way over warm water. As it keeps growing and pulling power from the warm water, it reaches winds of 39 miles per hour, and it gets into its 3rd stage, a tropical cyclone. As it keeps moving and pulling more and more energy from the ocean, it releases latent heat of condensation, allowing it to keep growing. Finally, it reaches its 4th and final stage and becomes a true hurricane. It does this by pulling more and more power from the warm ocean. This is also why we see when hurricanes make their way over land, they begin to lose power as they have nowhere to pull fuel from. To help display this better, I have here 2 diagrams to show what the beginning of a hurricane might look like. Here we see a smaller storm with warm, humid air at the bottom where the ocean is, and cold, unstable air at the top. These red arrows help us show how the storm begins to pull energy from the warm ocean up into it and pushing this cold air down. As it keeps making its way over the warm water, it turns into this. As you can see, there's a great difference. It is much larger. There's a lot of smaller thunderstorms on the outsides, and it has opened up down the middle, creating what we talked about earlier as the eye of the storm. And the red arrows, as you can see, are a lot more and circling all the way around the storm, allowing for the warm air to keep pulling through and pushing more cold air down. Now we know exactly what a hurricane is, what is needed for them to form, and how they evolve. In summary, hurricanes are massive storms categorized by the thunderstorm activity, intense winds, and circular motion. We explored specific conditions needed for their formation, such as warm water, humid air, and low vertical shear. We also discussed how they evolve into fully formed storms from small disturbances. They gain strength as they go over warm water. Ultimately, hurricanes serve as a reminder of the power of Mother Nature that Mother Nature holds and how perfectly it can orchestrate it to display it.